what I thought would be a good idea, and this is in the form of a question for everybody, is to do the work session the Monday before the Monday board meeting, so there's a week's worth of time to gather the information. And those dates are listed. The only one that's a real odd one is the first one, January 4th, is the first day coming back after the holiday. But all the other ones aren't conflicting dates. And then the Tuesday, September 26th, and Tuesday, November 29th are there because the 5th is Labor Day and the 28th of November is the extended Thanksgiving holiday. So I just thought that that was a good idea, especially with, quite honestly, me being new here and 3 board members being new, to give us the time to have the discussion, get additional information if any is required, and then and have more than one day to turn it around. Is that okay with everybody?
I think that's a great suggestion.
Okay, great. The next item, capital projects. I wanted you to see the debt service schedule, and one of the reasons that our expenditure per pupil is higher than most school districts, with the exception of a few that neighbor us, is our debt is extremely short. Our debt runs out in 2022. So this is the mortgage on the physical plant, and here we are in a scenario where we're completely out of debt in 7 years. The good news is we're completely out of debt in 7 years. The bad news is we're paying $3 million a year now on a relative basis for the size of our school district. That's a big debt service payment, and that's one of the reasons that we are expenditure per pupil more than a lot of other school districts. Now, the bad news about some of those other school districts are they have 30 and 35-year debt, and they can't add any more. If we need to do capital projects, which we do, and we've been talking about it for months now, and we're going to try to accomplish it via the energy conservation guaranteed energy grant situation, where the energy savings from upgraded lighting, upgraded insulation, and any other energy savings we can have, we can do those projects that need to be done, primarily the roof and the high school and the middle school, without having to raise taxes, and use the savings to pay the interest on the capitalized interest on debt, and then roll the debt forward maybe 2 years, maybe 3, but probably 2, so that we're in a situation where we'll still be out of debt in 2024, which is 9 years, and we'll have all of the capital projects that have 10-year useful lives or more done. So at that point, we're going to be in a situation where we don't have the need, and especially because of enrollment declining. We're not going to be building new buildings. Enrollment's going the other direction. But we can't, if the roof of your house leaks and leaks badly, you don't say, sorry, I can't afford to fix it. And if you do, then it continues to leak in the house, and it will continue to do more damage, and it's not going to get better. We have a 27-year-old roof on the high school, which had a 15 to 20-year useful life. It needs to be replaced. And when we do it, we want to add energy conservation to it, 4 inches of hard styrofoam, adding R value. I think 4 inches adds R11 to the roof, and then do the upgrades to the lighting from the standpoint of energy. And we're expecting to save somewhere between $250,000 and $350,000 in energy costs, which will pay for the interest on the debt to do all of the projects. And what we're going to do is, and all of this is non-binding, so we have plenty of time and we can make decisions on what we want to add or delete from this project by going to all of the guaranteed energy companies. It used to be a division of PPL, now it's a division of Talon called McClure. There's Honeywell, there is Johnson Controls, and there's CM3. All 4 of those companies have done energy conservation guaranteed programs of school districts, counties, municipalities, and state buildings in our area. So we're going to request for proposal and request for qualifications from those companies. We'll do an evaluation, have most likely a work session together, and decide what direction we want to go, and then how to proceed going forward with what projects we're going to do. I mean, it's almost a given that we need to replace the roofs, and those are the 2 biggest. That's $2.5 million. And we've been talking about that ever since I've been here, but I think it's multiple years now. And we've held off because of the financial condition of the district and not knowing where we were with Plan Con and not knowing where we were with fund balance. And now we know where we are with all of that, and it's time to decide to do that. And if there are any other projects that should be part of that, we can add them to it. All this is going to be ongoing capital improvements, not capital construction for classrooms, so it's going to be a non-Plan Con process facility situation, so we're not going to have to jump through the 6 months to a year of Plan Con in timing.
I don't think we can anyway,
We don't
because there's a
have time.
20-year clause on upgrading facilities, and I think we touched base with, we used it already for Hardy Wilson,
Okay.
obviously for the Evergreen.
Right.
So we lose a little bit of reimbursement, but are you planning on extending the debt then, is that what that, or did I misunderstand?
No, the debt would be extended, but the existing millage is in place
Yeah,
already.
okay, because you talked about that in your interview, and
Yep.
I was really,
Yep.
really all in favor of that, I thought that was a great idea.
Right. And then we're going to have a physical plant that has somewhere between 10, most likely now, 15 and 35-year useful life, and our debt schedule is going to be 8. So it's a good situation to be. It's sort of like when you're in your 50s and you're getting ready to retire, you want your mortgage to be gone, sooner than the asset fails, and that's how it will be. Okay. So so we're going to do the request for qualifications. We'll bring that to the next board work session, have a discussion, and then we will select most likely who we want to use in January or February, and then we have collectively the time to work with who we're going to use to determine what projects we're going to do. Okay? The next item is there's a red file in your packet, redistricting, and this is driven, the current situation of our, this is board elections. Each district, 3 districts of our school district have 3 representatives. We don't have at-large, we have 3 representatives from a geographic basis. Based on school code, which is the first item, section 303 of the school code, and this is just point of information, so there's no action being taken on this in the short term, but I want you to have the information so that we can have a discussion at a future work session, and if we choose to take action, we can, and it will be a process that will take 4 or 5 months anyway, okay? But what happens is, it's based on population, and so you can read the school code, and it's only a page and a half, so if you have trouble sleeping, read that. The next page that has the color-coded townships by region. The North region has a current population of 3,284 people. That's 20.4% of our school district's population, and it has a third of the voting, so 33%. The center district and the North district is Canaan, half of Clinton, and Waymark Borough. The center section of our school district, the second region, has Lake and South Canaan. That has 7,035 population. That's 43% of the population of our school district, with a third of the board representation. And then the further south district, Salem and Sterling, is 5,700, 35%, 33. That's as close as you're going to get, because the border lines have to follow taxing districts and where the elections are held. So if we were going to maintain our 3, 3, and 3, which is probably, there are other options. I mean, the other option, you can go to all at-large. You can go to 2 at-large or 3 at-large and 2 per district. You can go to 1 per district and 6 at-large. But traditionally, we've tried to make sure that every geographic region has a third of the representation. If we were to solely on the next page, excuse me here, if we were to take South Canaan Township, which currently has no sitting board members live in South Canaan Township, and for the last 16 years, there have been no board members who live in South Canaan Township. It's pretty odd, but that's the way it's been. And South Canaan Township generally speaking, and correct me if I'm wrong from everybody from the north, but tends to focus and be more aligned with Waymart than it does with Hamlin. So if we were to take South Canaan Township and redistrict it to the northern tier, and again, there are no members there, and the 3 existing members from the north would still be the 3 existing members from the north, and there'd be no other changes to the redistricting, then that would get the population base pretty as close as we're going to be able to do it within the election districts. So that would get us to 31.5 in the north for 33% of the representation, 32.8 for Lake Township is by far the most populous township for 33, and then Salem and Sterling would stay the same. And the reason for doing this is the reason for doing it is it's a requirement of the school code to make sure that you have equal representation for the voting total number of voters. And if you choose not to do it, which is an option, if 25% of one of the voting districts selects and forces it, then they can bypass the board and go to the court and request it to be done, and then you don't have any input. And I want this group, because you're so concerned and you're here for all the right reasons, to have input to decide what direction you want to go. Which is.
So I'd like to stay the way we are because it's worked for all these years.
But and I understand that, but the population shift over, especially between the 2000 and 2010 census, and there'll be another census in 2020. You know, the rule, and just like all governments have to redistrict. The state did it a few years back. The national did it. It's you know, the state reps have to have roughly 60,000 people represented.
Excuse me, the state does it because it's political, and it sets up that they shouldn't change anything, because what they do is they make the matter worse. And
But
so
it-
if you're
They
using
play
state-
politics with it.
But-
They gerrymandered it.
Yeah.
They
That's all they
politics.
do, they make it worse for the
But-
people instead of better. Thank you.
And I'm not going to disagree with you.
No,
But it's the law. We again, don't shoot the messenger. The
Hey, it's a
1940
law that we're supposed to have a budget on July 1st.
I understand.
Well, it's December.
Yeah.
It's a
The
law.
school code of
It's a law.
1949 says this is what we have to do. I'm just alerting you to the fact that the school code, which is the law that drives school business, says we have to do it. So I would like for you,
It also says that we don't have to act at all.
Yeah.
And here we are, on the cusp of halfway through to another census.
yeah,
I would second Mr. McDonough's claim that we stay idle.
Yeah.
And we see where, in the last 4 years, we have seen astronomical drops in enrollment, which is going to mean when those children are leaving, the parents are leaving. So these figures that we have in front of us here are going to be seismic. It's going to be astronomically different.
it's only gotten worse in the north.
It's not the point of where it gets worse. The point is that the numbers are not accurate to the day.
Well,
That's what I'm worried
there are
about.
always 10 years, there's always a time frame.
I realize that.
Again, I'm just telling you, here's the rule, here's the law, and if somehow, if I'm a person in Lake Township, and I say, you know what, this is wrong, and I can get on a non-big election, on a non-presidential election, if I can get 200 people to vote for this, then they're going to determine with the court what we do, not us. I'm just telling you, again, I'm the messenger. I'm just telling you that here's the rule and here's the population. And you can choose to do nothing, and that's an option. So, but and that's just a point of information. I'm trying to be, you know, I've been asked to be transparent. I've been asked to tell you everything that I can tell you that regarding the school code and operating the school business.
Okay.
And
Are we gonna start interviewing candidates for teacher jobs and maintenance jobs and stuff like that at the board? Well, that's what I want to hear you say.
If you see,
Stuff that we should be doing.
if you see, and it's there, Essential School Board Guide, everybody got it, it's as part of expectations of what school directors do, and there's a question and answer, there's about, I don't know how many pages it is, 25 pages of information, you know, for your leisure to read, and it has an explanation of expectations of what, you know, boards should and shouldn't do. I'm gonna go really quickly, and obviously we're gonna have to start the meeting without the executive session
So
before.
I'd like to have the quick executive session before we vote.
Oh,
Or before the vote.
we're quite a ways.
Well,
We have
We'll
financial,
have to take it, we'll do that.
yeah, we have the financial comparisons. And again, in the green folder has, you know, everybody said, teach us about the school business from a financial standpoint. And there have been lots of people out there who are saying, you know, Western Wayne's a poor school district, you know, whatever, we can't afford anything. And I just want to be able to show you all the comparisons of us as opposed to everybody else. The first item, and they're all stapled together, and the first one has one with a circle around it. That is the definition of wealth. Net market value aid ratio, personal income aid ratio, and then the market value / personal income aid ratio. It's real technical, don't spend any time on it, but I wanted you to see that's how the state determines with the facts, and the facts are state tax equalization board for market value, personal income, which when you do your state income tax return, you have to put on it what school district you live in, so it's all there, okay? So the facts are the facts are the facts, and everybody works with the same facts, okay? So that's how it's calculated. The second page of that same piece is the statewide averages all the way back to 2002, 2003. I don't want to spend any more time on that. Second, the one that has 2 with a circle around it shows all of the tax rates going all the way back to 2004, 2005 of Western Wayne School District. And our market value personal income aid ratio, the market value increases and the personal income aid increases. Now, market value personal income aid ratio, market value aid ratio, personal income aid ratio, the lower the number is, the more rich you are. The higher the number is, the poorer you are, okay? So here we are, and you can see there's the history of the tax increases. The highest one was 6%, which was 2 years ago. And if you notice all the years that we went zeros, sometime in the next couple of years after that, it gets made up. Bottom line is, school funding is based on state section, which the state has pulled the plug, it hasn't supported us, we all know that. Federal government, we used to get $900,000 for Title I, now we get $350 plus or minus, so we know that. And the only other source of revenue for us is taxation. And when there is no inflation factor from the revenue side, the reality is you raise taxes to cover inflation. Now, we are declining enrollment. We've actually spent less money this year than we did last year. We spent less money this year than we did 2 years ago, and we're about equal where we spent in 2012, 11, 12. So, and the reason for that is declining enrollment. We've had a whole bunch of people who have retired and haven't replaced. Last year alone, it was $800,000 worth of payroll expenses that weren't replaced. So, and in future years with the cost reductions that we're going to get out of both of the adopted contracts, you know, that should continue. However, the inflation, the things that are causing us to spend more money, which are the retirement contribution and healthcare contribution, are going up pretty rapidly. So somehow, some way, we need to pay for that, and that's all part of multiple discussions between now and May when we have to adopt the budget. Okay, so I'm starting now, letting everybody know here's where we are. And the reality is, if you say, geez, people aren't making the money that they ever used to, well, take a look, the numbers are there. We surpassed the highest income level of residents of Western Wayne School District last year than ever before, including 2007 and 8. And if you were in the construction industry, or the excavating industry, or the real estate industry, you never made any more money ever in your life than you did in 2007. And we've now surpassed that as a school district. It dropped dramatically in 2009-10 at the bottom of the recession, dropped $20 million, we're now $252 million. So I just wanted everybody to know that. The school districts in Wayne County and Pike County and Lackawanna County that border us and are most like us, which are Walpole, Peck, Wayne Highlands, Delaware Valley, and North Pocono. There's all their data, market value personal income aid ratio, and you can see Wallenpaupack is very wealthy from a standpoint of market value, but not wealthy as in a point of personal income. We actually, our people who live here make more money than people who live at Wallenpaupack. And you can see economic disadvantage, which is free and reduced lunch. We have grown to 49, just under 50%. Wallenpaupack's at 55. And North Pocono is the least at 31. All of those numbers have gone higher because people have generally become poorer. Again, that WADM number is our total enrollment weighted, and if you looked at that formula weighting it, anybody from grades 7 through 12 gets weighted at 1.36. So that's pretty much the enrollments. The next page, which is a real important thing, it says select data with rankings, has 4 with the circle. I would request for you to go to page 12 of that, which has, this is laid out by county. And again, all of this is factual data coming from the state off people's income tax returns and the State Tax Equalization Board. If you go to page 12, you'll see the Wayne County Schools, and you'll see the circle on 460, which is us, okay? Page 12 of 13 is, and that scenario, we are, our rank as far as market value personal income aid ratio, which is our wealth as determined by the state, we are the 436 wealthiest out of 500 school districts in the state of Pennsylvania, okay? And however, from a taxation standpoint, which is the circled number, our equalized mills are 12, so we are the 460th lowest tax school district. So we're the 436th most wealthy and the 460th lowest tax. We don't have earned income tax, and there's a good reason for that, because who has the ability to pay most are second homeowners, non-residential homeowners. If you have $1 million house on Lake Wallenpaupack in Salem Township or in the Hideout, and you're a non-resident and you work for an investment bank on Wall Street, you know, and if we enact an earned income tax, what's going to happen is you, as a permanent resident here who's a wage earner, will have to make up the difference in the savings that person's going to have in the real estate taxes. So the people who can most afford to pay the taxes are the non-residents, the non-resident second homeowner, and the commercial properties, who are the biggest benefactors of an earned income tax. The other area of earned income tax, people who get hurt are people who are on a fixed income, who are retired. But their scenario is, that's what the homestead, farmstead exemption was for, okay? Again, and there's a lot of technical stuff there. I won't spend any more time on that one.
They had a wage tax in that Act 1 agreement for the homestead, farmstead.
Yep.
And we had our committee, we shot it down.
Yep.
And
Because you did the research.
Yeah, for all the right
Yep.
reasons, but,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
And now Act 1 doesn't even provide the money to
Exactly.
discount
Well, and then the other thing that was gonna happen was the gambling revenue. We all remember the gambling revenue from 8 years ago, 9 years
Yeah,
ago?
205.
Yeah. All of that money was going to come to support education, and right now, the current budget has 0 of that coming to us.
Yeah.
So.
It's pretty sick.
Yeah, that's painful.
That's Harrisburg.
Yeah,